Okay, we are jumping right into Melissa Cline-Douthitt, and I am so excited that she got to be here with us today. She does amazing work in the Delphi Center. I'm sharing my screen, so I cannot move it, can I? She's a senior instructional designer, and I would say she's a fabulous speaker and a transfer of knowledge. And she collaborates with faculty to create engaging and effective learning experiences that support student success. She has a background in career services, which I didn't know till I got this bio. She's deeply committed to ensuring course designs align with evolving workforce expectations and the need for the employer community, which doesn't that tie in with what we're doing today so well. She also teaches English composition at Jefferson Community and Technical College, so be careful how you write in the chat like I was doing. She helps students develop strong writing and critical thinking abilities. She's passionate about emerging technologies, including GenAI, Me Too, and actively exploring ways to integrate these tools into instructional design to enhance engagement and academic achievement. I know she's also passionate about making sure our students understand the lack of guardrails in AI. This session is going to provide some practical examples and applications of how the Delphi Center, through faculty consultations, programming, and course development support, is assisting educators in aligning their teaching with the essential competencies identified by CPE. Special emphasis will be placed on workplace relevant digital literacy and assignments that foster effective communication skills, ensuring students are prepared to convey ideas clearly and professionally in multiple formats. So, Melissa, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. This has been a wonderful morning so far and some great information. I'm going to share my screen and bring up my PowerPoint, and we're going to go through and talk about communication skills and digital literacy and how the Delphi Center is helping faculty and then as a result students with that. So I'm going to go ahead and share. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I have several Louis Cardinal birds in here, since obviously U of L is playing, I think, in an hour or 2 hours, so go Cards. Some of the birds look better than others, thanks to GenAI, so you will see them as we go through the session. But so I did a basketball theme for this session. It's called From Tip Off to Take Off, GenAI Communication and Career Readiness. So our session objectives this morning, we're going to define some key considerations before incorporating GenAI. This is not a comprehensive list of considerations, but a few that faculty and staff both want to consider. Then we're going to dive into talking about the importance of AI literacy and the connection between understanding human communication skills and AI communication skills and what that balance is between the two. Then we're going to talk about how to think creatively about leveraging GenAI and leaning in with assignments. And then we're going to talk about resources on campus and some of the programming that we offer at the Delphi Center that you may be aware of, which is great. And if you're not, also great because you can take advantage of some of the resources that we have. All right, so this is my cardinal bird thinking. So these, again, this isn't a comprehensive list, but these are some considerations that you want to think about or categories of things that you want to consider before incorporating AI or before having your students use AI. The first is equity. You probably are aware of this. Most GenAI platforms have free versions, which is great, but most have paid versions too. And that can be a barrier to students. So for example, if you're assigning something where you want your students to use ChatGPT, the free version isn't as good as the paid version. So you really want to think about if you're using GenAI, how is it going to be an equal playing field for all of your students? So that's a huge consideration. Another is privacy. If your students are putting their information into a train the trainer model like ChatGPT, is their information safe? What information are they putting out there? Are they aware of that? I always tell students and colleagues as well, when you're using GenAI, if you don't want something to be somewhere on the internet, you do not want to put it into a train the trainer model. So that's also something to think about. The third consideration are your goals. What are your teaching goals or the goals for your students? And how can GenAI maybe make sense, or how can you leverage GenAI to support those goals? So I'm a huge GenAI proponent. I think it has lots and lots of benefits, but I will also say you don't want to just use technology for the sake of using technology, right? So it should have a larger purpose within whatever your course goals are, or if you're a staff member, whatever your goals are for a project, or your interactions with students, what those goals are. So now let's talk about workplace communication with AI. A lot of times students don't understand, and we need to take that ownership on educating them about what AI can do in the workplace, and then what they can do and what that balance is between the two. However, employers are saying, and I was actually surprised by some of these statistics, employers are saying they want students equipped with GenAI knowledge, that to be competitive in this job market, they want them to have some of that GenAI literacy and to know when to use AI and when to not use it. So these are just a few statistics. This is from 2024, last year, Microsoft's Work Index report. And like I said, I was actually surprised by how high some of these are. So for readiness, 74% of employers say new grads need GenAI experience before entering the workforce. Integration. 56% of professionals who took the survey or completed the survey are saying that they are using it, that they're leaning in to use it in a hopefully ethical, in an ethical manner. Promotion. 77% of employers state entry-level professionals will be given greater responsibilities and possibly promotional opportunities with GenAI skills. So this information lets us know that we really need to be equipping our students the best we can for a GenAI world, because we're not going back. It's only, the technology is only going to keep getting better and better. And then how can we have students lean into it in a way that is ethical and makes sense without losing the human component? So next on this slide, I've already highlighted this a little bit, but importance and balance. GenAI has a lot of possibilities that can be leveraged for communication. It can automate tasks like writing, speaking, and presenting. Some of you all may use certain GenAI tools. For example, I use Grammarly. I really like Grammarly. I think it's much more robust than the spell and grammar checker in Office 365. So as an example, that's something that, I use. There's lots of presentation AI tools. There's lots of other speaking tools and, note transcriber tools. So there's a lot of tools focused on GenAI and communication. But again, what's the human component? Okay, what is the human component? And then how can we, as faculty and staff and the employer community, how can we balance those two? And then how can we also teach our students to balance those two as well? And that's a really, really important concept to consider. So I'm not going to go over all of this, but this sort of so this sort of breaks down, sorry, I just saw someone waiting in the lobby. So this breaks down the main communication types, how we can leverage just very generally GenAI for those different types, some of the human strengths that GenAI cannot output, right? And then a few possible tools. I'm not going to talk much about the tools because tools are very rapidly changing. Now, you might notice under possible tools, I only put ChatGPT and Copilot and Gemini under digital literacy. They could really fall into any of these buckets. You could use them for verbal communication, written communication, presentation, but because they're so widely known, I did highlight a few of these other tools that you can look at and do some additional research on or download. All of them have free versions. Some of them do have paid versions as well. But again, the most common ones I put down at the bottom for digital literacy, but didn't highlight them for the other ones as well. So it's important to see what this balance is and to have students understand that, GenAI can summarize speeches, it can summarize course notes. As a staff member, it can notebook LM, for example, it can do transcribing, but where is the human component? It doesn't have emotional intelligence. It's not going to get your tone correct. For writing skills, it still needs your professional judgment, your creativity. So I always tell my students in my English courses, I still need to hear your voice, your tone, and your perspective. So again, how can we lean in a way that makes sense? You can also see for presentation skills and then also for digital literacy. So again, it's all about that balance. So let's talk about, as educators, whether we're faculty or staff, let's talk about some tips and tools to prepare students for this GenAI focused workplace that really wants students to lean in with their communication skills and use GenAI, again, in ethical ways. That's always my caveat. These are two main approaches that you can take if you're wanting to start incorporating GenAI into your courses and get your feet wet, so to speak. One is explore as a topic. So you're going to take whatever your discipline is and explore how GenAI is being used in that discipline and have your students engage with that, okay? So GenAI is the subject of inquiry in that particular approach. That's probably the best if you are new to GenAI and or are uncomfortable with using it, which is fine. As I've already said, I am a huge GenAI proponent, but there is nothing wrong or there's nothing negative at all about being much more apprehensive and being much more cautious about using it, especially with ethical concerns and plagiarism and things like that and data privacy. So this might be exploring as a topic, maybe the way that you want to go in your particular discipline as a way to just start engaging your students. The other one, though, especially if you're all in, is using it as a tool to actually produce something or create something. Again, though, we just want to be mindful of those considerations that I mentioned at the beginning of the session. So, explore as a topic. That could involve studying, critiquing, or evaluating AI's impact on a specific field or problems associated with that. I gave some examples down here. The one I'll highlight that I think sounds really, really cool, actually, is nursing. Study how AI-driven tools like chatbots help nurses assess patient symptoms and guide care. So really think about, because in every field, GenAI is being utilized in some capacity. So have your students engage with what is that? What is the AI technology in your particular discipline? What's the impact of that? Is it a positive impact? Is it a negative impact? And what can your students learn from that? And sort of getting their feet wet and your feet wet too with GenAI and exploring it as a topic. The other one, though, if you're all in with GenAI, is, I like to say this, integrate to create. So if you are wanting your students to actually create something, that could be a brainstorming session, that could be a mind map, that could be a newsletter, that could be a presentation or a component of one of those things, then this would be a good model for you. And you can see those examples. And again, I'll highlight a nursing example that actually ChatGPT gave me. I should cite ChatGPT for that. But nursing, an AI-powered symptom checker, build a chatbot. Students can build a chatbot that helps patients input symptoms and receive a potential diagnoses. This is great because then students are really thinking about the technology, thinking about the implications, and then also analyzing the positives and negatives, right? There are positives, obviously, for this example of this GenAI chatbot or symptom checker, but there could be drawbacks too, right? There could be some significant drawbacks. And so having that conversation with students and thinking about that, and it also puts them in a simulation in the world of work, right? So they're thinking about in the real world, when they get into the workplace, how can they harvest or utilize and lean into these technologies? So integrate to create if you're all in. Okay, overall tips, again, whether you're a faculty or you can apply these as a staff member as well. However you're using AI, scaffold into a larger assignment. A GenAI project should not be a big component of a midterm or a final exam, right? It should be something that is built into something larger, whether you're doing integrate to create or you're using it as a tool that's already there to analyze it. So have it as a component of something bigger. The outcome is not the end goal. The focus is the process, right? So the process, what were the prompts? What were the outcomes? What were the positives? What were the negatives? Were there what we always call, in Gen AI speak, hallucinations, things that, wow, this sounds really good, but it's not true, right? Or bias. So really having students parse that out and analyze that, that's really, really important, and giving students the opportunity to fail. Okay. Sometimes in education, we forget that part, right? But when you're using Gen AI, especially because it's still so new, I remember teaching late November, fall of 22, and a student comes to me and says, there's this platform that just launched called ChatGPT. That's not that long ago, right? I mean, just think of how the technology has evolved since then. I mean, it's really mind-blowing to think about. So let students fail, focus on the process and not the outcome if you're going to be incorporating Gen AI in whatever capacity you are, whether it is as an educator or whether it is for, something that you're doing professionally for yourself. All right, so this is my other Louis Bird here. I do like this one, my little chat bot. So you may be thinking, I'm overwhelmed by Gen AI, and I'm overwhelmed by what I need to know as a faculty or staff member, what I need to be responsible for with my students and educate them. I don't have the time to do that and teach in my discipline, but I would like to get started. Okay, this is a good starting point. You may be familiar with this tool, you may not be. This is a tool that we recently put into the wild, so to speak, in Blackboard Ultra, and it's called AI Conversations. It is a tool that if you go to create something in Ultra, it's under discussions, it's discussions, then journals, and then AI Conversations. So it's under the participation and engagement tools. This is a great way to get started. Now let me tell you what it is, okay? It has two different options. You can create a simulated conversation with the chatbot. So for example, I was at the Blackboard conference last summer when they launched this or did a demo of it, and the person who was doing the demo was having a conversation with Socrates and was asking questions in a philosophy course. It was a really, really cool demo. Sounds really cool, right? And then the other part of AI Conversations that just launched this last November is where you can actually do a scenario or a simulation. So you could create a simulation between a nursing professor and a nursing student. You could create a simulation, actually a better example would be a patient and a student with a particular diagnosis. And so as the instructor, you can then see when you create one of these two different options, the entire conversation, which is great because then it's in a controlled environment where you can see what were the questions the student asked, how did the AI respond, what were the positives, what were the drawbacks. And then at the end, there is a preset reflection question that you can also edit, and it asks the student then to reflect on the experience, right? What was what was a good about this conversation with Socrates? Or for example, if you're doing a simulation of a nursing student and a patient with diabetes, okay, what was the conversation? What did you learn from it? Were there points of bias or hallucinations or concerns, right? At you as the student, could you have asked better questions? Could your prompts have been better? Could the questions you have asked the patient be tilted in a different direction? So it's a great way to get students practicing with AI, but it's all in Blackboard. So it's a safe space, so to speak. It's protected, okay? You're not sending your students out and telling them to get, paid ChatGPT accounts. There's not the equity issues. And then also you can see the entire conversation and there's an analysis of that conversation. You can also grade it or it can be ungraded. And you can also time it, which I don't think that is as applicable for the Socratic line of questioning. But if you're that nursing professor and you're wanting to simulate in real time your nursing student in a clinical rotation, talking with the patient with diabetes, you might want to time it to kind of see what that dialogue is. So you do have that option, but this is a great tool to get started. I have used it in my English classes and my students have really liked it, especially my students who might be a little more apprehensive to using AI. And then I'm not feeling like I'm taking up so much class time educating them on just Gen AI in general. I can focus on my content and then they can, start engaging with their AI chatbot. So AI Conversations is a great tool, and that is something that we now have available in Blackboard Ultra. Let me look at time. Oh, okay, 2 minutes left. I'm not going to read these. You'll have the PowerPoint. These are just some use cases for using the AI Conversations tool. Again, across disciplines, there is applicability to using it. So I would definitely test it out and or leverage myself or another member of our instructional design team if you want to brainstorm how to use it with an existing assignment or maybe with something new. All right, so we want to help. I know in talking with faculty, again, there is, and staff too, there's a continuum, right? Some folks are all in, some are, I don't know, some are, I'm very, very apprehensive, and there's not a right or wrong answer. But we have a lot of resources to help you as faculty and staff, and then also students. So some of our resources, we have a great GenAI specific SharePoint site that my colleague Danny McDonald maintains. I'll show you a screenshot of it in just a second. It has lots of example assignments, articles, podcast information. He updates it every week, so it's really current information. So you're not having to go to multiple websites and multiple sources to find this information. It's right here. The other thing I know, and I feel this too as a faculty member, I need to see examples of what other folks are doing. How are they using it? How does it make sense? What were the positives when they used GenAI for an assignment? What were the drawbacks? What would they do differently? A lot of that information is contained on the SharePoint site. We also have modules. These are asynchronous, self-paced modules. One is great for newbies. How does GenAI work? What are the main tools and the terminology? How do I kind of just get started with the language and get a framework? That's a module. Another one I haven't really addressed in this session, but is a great resource is how can I, myself, me as a faculty or staff member, how can I lean in to increase my productivity? There's only 24 hours in a day. We got a lot of things going on. How can I lean in and use it to enhance my workflow? So that's another asynchronous module. The other resource that's also linked to on our website that our digital media suite, the Writing Center, and the library put together, which is awesome. It is it's 6 mini modules or a micro course on how students can use GenAI. So you don't have to be the GenAI expert. If you're wanting to use it in some capacity in your course or as a staff member, you can recommend students to go through this. At the end, they get a certificate of completion. So as a faculty member, if you're wanting to tie it in with an assignment, you can have them upload that. You can create an assignment in Blackboard and have them upload that, so you can see that. But that is a great resource to educate students on, how to use GenAI, what are the tools, what are prompts, those kinds of things. So if you again, this is a screenshot of our SharePoint site, and there is the link to it there. Got a lot of great information. We also have, and this is hot off the presses because there's only been one episode, we have a new podcast that is, it's called The AI Ate My Homework, and it links to from here. And this is the director of our digital media suite interviewing different faculty and staff about their lessons learned from using GenAI. What worked, what didn't, what would they do differently, what would they like to do? So this is a great resource, especially if you're on the go, just listen to it in your car, listen to it when you're walking across campus, but that's an awesome new resource that we have available on the SharePoint site. We also have an upcoming event. You can register for this through April 11th. It's limited to 20 participants, so if you're interested, get on the website and register now. The preference, it's for faculty members, and the preference is for those who are going to be teaching in fall 25. It is a 3-day immersive workshop. You will come out with assignment redesigns using GenAI, example syllabus statements, really everything you need to sort of kickstart your GenAI fall 25 semester. So if you're interested and have questions, let me know, or there's additional information on it at the link there. In addition to that, we have programming throughout the year at the Delphi Center. We are getting ready to wrap next month a GenAI Learning Circle, and I believe we're going to be doing that again next academic year. There is a GenAI book club. There is programming throughout the year. I've participated or co-facilitated a workshop on how to put components of your syllabi into GenAI. What is the output? What did you learn? How can you maybe put your syllabus into GenAI to get a better idea of the tone of your syllabus? Is it student friendly, for example? So we have those programs, throughout the year, in-person workshops and also online workshops as well. And then some asynchronous additional options too that are linked on our website, and you can check them out at any time. Or again, just ask us, and we have consultations. Our instructional design team, that is one of our main focus areas, is doing consultations with faculty and staff members. So anytime you want to brainstorm something related to AI, have questions, please reach out and we'd be happy to schedule a time to meet with you. And go Cards!
Isn't that the truth? Wow, Melissa, thank you so much. Okay, you guys, now's your chance. You've got her as a captive audience here. If you'll raise your hand, I can make sure I can unmute you. I don't mind doing that at all. We're a small group. Any questions from Melissa? Okay. Well, Melissa, thank you so much. We so appreciate your time. I know you're busy. You're asked to be so many different places at one time.
Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.